there's one thing I love, it's wordplay. But also people just like clicking on things and going, oh, that's what it's about, not having to listen to it for an hour before the context comes up. So
what was the one that you got given yesterday? I can't remember.
Oh God. It was to do with cheese, wasn't it? It was part of Callum's cheese
Was it? Okay.
questioning. I'm sure it was. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. But
Gabrielle Jesus.
Gabrielle Jesus. That was it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the level. That's the level. That's where we are. Yeah. Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am your host, Rich Owens. Joining me this week, we have my wonderful colleague from reality and all other places. We have Jebaroo. Jeb is here. And for the audio listeners who can't see, they're just listening to my voice, sat below me, not actually below me, that'd be weird. We are joined by the wonderful Steve Hood. Steve, hello, mate. How are we?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much, both for having me. Appreciate it. I'm sure we have lots to talk about.
We'll find something. We'll find something. Everyone, we've all been pretty quiet. Jeb, you've been really quiet recently. You've not had much going on, have you?
No, nothing much at all. Yeah, I said something last week, and I don't know. There was like bullet noises when I was walking down the street the other day. I don't know. I might have offended some people. Who knows? Anyway, Hood, is PvP dead?
What an opener! In the traditional tournament sense, I think so. Sadly, there was a massive flurry of lots of competitions on the path at the same time. Everyone vying for that spot, vying for that opportunity, trying to make everything unique. And I think people just either ran out of ideas or ran out of interest. From my perspective, I always find that from like a streaming perspective, numbers were a little bit lower during PvP. And yeah, I think the nature of once the rankings came out, not that I'm firing shots at the rankings team. I'm not doing that.
Careful
now.
Careful.
I think when there was a structure in place, I think people started taking it a little bit more seriously. And that potentially could have impacted things as well. But yeah, ultimately, I think so for the most part, which is a shame. But you know, when FM25 rolls around and draft mode's not in it, it's moot point at that point, isn't it?
It becomes one. It does become one, doesn't it? I mean, you've touched on FM25 rolling around eventually. We've got a few months yet. I mean, that almost serves as some kind of weird segue, Steve, because when they announced the delay, when SI announced that Football Manager 25 was going to be delayed by a good 4 or 5 months, I think a lot of people had very different reactions to that news. Some people were quite angry. Some people were quite understanding of the decision behind the delays. And then everybody kind of reacted to it further in different ways. Some people extended the saves they were doing. Some people started new saves on stream. Some people started new bits and pieces offline. Some people decided to start a 20-person Premier League tournament.
Yeah, that's a good idea, isn't it? That's not lots of work at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, much the same as some of the other creators, I released a video on the day of the delay, going through everything, and I after that I took some time to sit back and just figure out what I wanted to do with content. And as you said, Rich, like people extended saves, came up with just constantly doing the same thing. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm quite burnt out by FM24 for the most part in terms of actually playing it myself. So, yeah, as I said, took a 2-week sit back and I thought this would be a fun idea. And then I started asking around, seeing people who wanted to be in it. And I'm super grateful for everyone that has been in it, either from a contestant perspective, people like yourself, Rich, who have been on commentary. Obviously, Jeb presented a show in game week 3. Like, honestly, the buy-in from everybody that has been a part of it has been sensational. I'm really enjoying putting them together, despite the fact that they're a lot of work. yeah, I just wanted something that kind of different members of the community could be part of. Really, I didn't really want it to be anything overly exclusive. Just kind of want as many people involved as humanly possible, really.
Which is lovely, and it, you know, from my perspective. So, of course, we're talking about Steve Hood's Match of the Delay. Excellent wordplay, which we are big fans of on this podcast.
Yeah.
Some people might argue we're big fans of fair to middling or even poor wordplay based on some previous episode titles.
Yeah, it's bad that I can't even claim that name pun myself, isn't it? I was kicking ideas around with a group of people that I messaged, and that one came from Andrew Gibney, or the Gib Show. That was his, and I was like, that's really funny. That I'm going to use that, and now here we are. It's kind of evolved a little bit from there, but yeah, sadly I can't even claim that, and I feel if I even attempted to, I would get a DM very abruptly after this comes out, being like, "You bastard, you stole my thing." Yeah, I'll give the credit where credit.
Just do it. Just steal it. It's fine. Great name, Steve. Great name. Love it.
Thanks. It's all me.
Yeah, I was going to say there was a good selection of creators you've got there, from Twitch creators to YouTube, and then even a few people unknown to some people as well. It's great to see. I mean, commentary wise, we've given so much props to Steakbake. Like Steakbake, we've already told him he needs to enter this BBC Next commentator thing. He needs to
you should, yeah.
He needs to be on Match of the Day. He needs to be on the radio. That's what he needs to be doing with his life, essentially.
Yep. Yeah.
Talk to me.
100%.
Talk to me about Fabio.
I can't describe Fabio in words. I love him so much. So Fabs is a guy who came around into my streams first and foremost. When I was streaming in the afternoons, was a regular. Every time I was there, he was there, always commenting and stuff in chat. And you guys have streamed as well. Having even just one person like that just makes it so much easier. And it is developed a lot more from there. Obviously, we probably send each other a message or so, like on a daily basis. Like we've got each other's numbers and stuff now. It's gone beyond like streamer viewer like levels of stuff, and yeah, it's just developed into that. And his attitude and energy from when we play pro clubs together, I thought would translate to a really funny commentator, and I feel it has. He initially sent me a draft of one, and he said, I'm gonna really go for this. And I was like, all right, this will be funny. I did go for it, but towards the end, I could actually hear him on his mic, just like out of breath, where he's literally given it everything he's got. And I think, to be honest, that really does add a little bit of a diversity level to it as well. So yeah, I love Fabs. He's brilliant.
And that's the beauty of it, because like you say, you've got such a broad spectrum of people involved with the project at all levels. Like there's a really, really wonderful mix of people involved who are actually playing the games. You've got, and it's been fun from my perspective being in part of the commentary Discord, because there's so many different styles. You've got people like, you've got Steak, you've got people like Fabs. Everybody seems to have their own different kind of take on it. And I think that's what makes it. What's one of the things that makes it work for me is that I think we all secretly, from people that have done commentary on games, you listen to Steak and you go, "Oh, I'm nowhere near as good at this as I originally thought I was. I thought I was okay. I've watched Match of the Day before. I'll give it a bit of Motson. We'll go for we'll go for gravitas rather than volume. That's what this game needs." And then he's listened to Steak. You're like, "Oh, this is professional broadcasting level." And then he listened to Fab, and it's like, that's just somebody who's having loads of fun. And you think, we need to up the game here. We need to up the levels a little bit. And it's forced everybody to do that. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. Would you say, in terms of the people you've got working behind the scenes, when this was all kind of coming together, did you have a rough idea of who you wanted to be involved behind the camera rather than in front of it?
I think so. I think there was a good list of people that kind of fit the bill for every role, really, from my perspective. Like there were people that I knew wouldn't be able to commit to being a participant and churning out 38 games and using that time and doing all of that stuff. So it was some of the ones were massive, you know, long shots with people like Omega Luke and Tom FM coming in, who this is their full-time gig, right? So like, you know, dedicating that sort of amount of time to someone and a project that they're not really seeing any huge impact or benefit from, because they're both much more bigger than my channel, for instance. I was super grateful with them saying yes. But yeah, like there was a list of people that unfortunately some people couldn't commit the time, as I said. But then that's where it would go down the route of, okay, well, if you can't play a game on a weekly basis, let's see if we can get you on the panel or doing a little bit of commentary or something like that, because I didn't want anyone to come to me and say, I don't think I can commit the time, and then that be the end of the conversation. There's loads of people that I've either interacted with in a PvP sense, or that I've met in person, or that I kind of have I feel like I can bounce off of pretty comfortably, and that's what this whole thing has been for me. Is just like, I want it to be fun, as you said about the levels of commentary and stuff. And you can blame Stake for taking it to a new level, because for game week 1, as the commentary was feeding in, I was like, it got to a point where I wasn't sure if commentary was right, because a lot of the creators were kind of narrating stuff themselves, and the need for commentary wasn't as high. And then Stakes came in, my editor put it together, and I was like, no, this is the way to do it. And I kind of shared that first example. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone who has been involved has been fantastic. If there anyone listening who does want to be part of it, my DMs are always wide open. Feel free to reach out in whatever role that you would like to be in. If you are not a creator, but would like to do some commentary, just send me a test file. Just let me know what it sounds like. Just take one of the games. Like if you want to do it, I can send you one of the highlights and you can just have a go, and I can say, yeah, maybe this, maybe you could tweak it a little bit, and let's do it. You know, it doesn't need to be, you know, you don't need X subscribers or whatever. It's just, you know, as I said, I just wanted this to be a little bit of a community feel that people would enjoy watching, and so far so good. Whether or not we get there in game week 36, 37, 38, I don't know. But at the moment, I'm still very much enjoying it, and I think people are too.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned those later game weeks. Are you going to still run it at a game week a week? Like, when does this format expire, if that's the case?
Good question.
I can't bother doing the maths. So.
No, it's a good question, because in theory, if we stayed at 1 per week, FM25 would be out. So there is an element of trying to speed it up. However, my editor doesn't like sleep anyway, apparently. So going to him, yeah, Connor, I need 2 episodes a week out of you, please. I think it would be quite difficult. What I will probably do is, obviously, the series is still relatively fresh. I was also away for 2 weeks. We're going to have Christmas coming up. I think 1 a week is very much doable to that point. And then in the new year, maybe if we need to increase the pace, that's when we'll probably look at doing that. How we go about doing that, I don't know, in terms of a capacity perspective. But yeah, ideally, I would like to see 2 episodes out a week, but I don't know how feasible that is right now.
Yeah, of course. You've still got the Champions League to throw into there and all those things as well.
I know, yeah. Can't wait for the FA Cup to get started when we've got all the teams, every team.
This was going to be one of the questions, and we kind of touched upon it briefly before we started recording, because, you know, I know just from my own perspective, being in that commentators Discord, there's a significant number of people. How many people have you got working on this behind the scenes? Because the sheer volume of content that needs to be made on a weekly basis, it feels like a lot. And you've used the word editor in the singular there quite a lot.
Yeah, it's just one guy from an editing perspective. But obviously we have our 20 competitors. I think there's a pool of around 12 to 14 commentators. Obviously, I'm not expecting everyone to volunteer themselves every week. People have lives, people have stuff that goes on, but this is why I wanted more than I would need, just in case people can't do things, people are away, whatever. Then we have 4 guys who are kind of helping in terms of like behind the scenes. Obviously, we've called in Statman Andrew, who's got an absolutely magnificent data sheet of all the stats from every single game that we've played. He even started doing like an FPL type thing off of how everybody's done, as in like, okay, if a guy scored, he would get X amount of FPL points. And I was like, this is just too much. Like there's not much that we can do with this, right? There's like, obviously the stats and knowing when people have hit goal milestones and stuff like that, that's super helpful for commentary. That's super helpful for people on the panel. But yeah, there's quite a lot of us. Obviously all the graphical stuff was done by Flute as well. And then, yeah, sorry to poor editor Connor, who is not able to go out and touch grass at the moment because of how much this project is impacting his life, sadly. But yeah, it's a quite a good community. I'm enjoying the Discord, to be honest, actually, and seeing people, you know, feed in commentary, feeding games and reactions. It's always good fun to see a game in advance, like the one from game week 4 where Kempy, the poor guy, had 3 game weeks where he hadn't scored a goal. In game week 4, I'm going to give you a spoiler as it's out now. He goes 3-0 up against Arsenal and Dodgy Gamer as West Ham manager, starts celebrating, doing the griddy, doing all sorts, and thinks he's going to win, having gone 3-0 up inside 26 minutes. Naturally, as all Football Manager players will know, the game didn't finish in a West Ham victory. It finished 3-3, and then at the end of the video, he's sat in a very large box, sat in a very large cardboard box, looking very sad, which is great. And I said that to a lot of the people in this competition, is like kind of content and entertainment over being very good at the game. Obviously, there's elements of being good at the game, and you can still kind of create content around that. But yeah, I was looking for an entertainment piece more than a 20 people trying to sweat it out, winning an FM competition kind of vibe. So yeah.
And that's definitely what we're seeing. That is definitely what we're seeing. I mean, in terms of the 20 people that you've got sat in front of the camera, as Jeb mentioned earlier, you've got some of the really, really big names from the FM kind of content creation world. You've got people like your Tom FMs, you've got your Second Yellow Cards, you've got your people like your Tony Jamesons. Of the 20 people sat in front of the camera taking part in the competition, who's been the standout for you that maybe didn't have as high of a reputation or weren't as well known within the community coming into the competition, that after the first 4 public game weeks, obviously spoilers, kind of some of the results from some of the future game weeks because they've already been played. In those opening 4 weeks, who have been the standouts for you? Who are you looking at and going, this is putting this person in the spotlight for all the right reasons?
I wouldn't necessarily for putting people in the spotlight, because I think one of the guys who I would touch on would be Big Robbo. But I mean, he's doing such a fantastic job on Twitch anyway. I think it's just maybe people are becoming more aware of him on a platform like YouTube, because he's already partnered on Twitch and stuff like that. And he is very, very good at what content looks like in 2024 going into 2025. In my opinion, you can see that he's very good mates with Angry Ginge, for instance. That is the kind of the realm that he is, and that's his personality. Like, even in the Discord, trying to arrange a game, he's calling people out, saying it's going to be their funeral and stuff like that. And it you can see why he's being so successful. Obviously, I have to touch on Musterman, going for, not that I people would be unaware of his stuff, obviously, with the skin and his presence on YouTube already, but what he is trying on a game week by game week basis is just crazy. Like, his tactic for this game week that's just gone out was themed around the word oil being spelt in his Chelsea team. And it's just a mess. He's not used a left back. He's got 4 people on the right hand side. It's crazy. And so far, the YouTube comments are calling for him to be sacked, which obviously in a versus mode tournament cannot happen. But if he goes all the way through this competition without picking up a point, I'm sure there would be people who might want to try and step in and see if they can do a bit better.
Absolutely. Well, the panel were calling for a coup last week for the Man City job. So I don't know who it was they were trying to get involved, but there was definitely talk of a coup. I heard coup.
Was it just anyone but Tony? Is that
ABT? Anybody but that's the policy. That's the policy there. Yeah, but it's been fantastic. I think we're seeing a lot of, and that's, again, it comes back to, I think, a lot of the bits and pieces we were talking about on last week's episode. It comes back to, even though this isn't your standard PvP format, it's not a standard draft competition, it's not even it's not a traditional network game. It's still seeing people interacting and seeing these people that you might not normally see working together or collaborating with each other. It's giving them the opportunity to do so, and it's coming up with some really lovely pairings, and it's just some of the reactions from people as well. It's been lovely, like watching Muno and Musterman come up with the same bizarre Christmas tree formation at the same time in the same game.
Couldn't believe it.
Why has that happened? Nobody knows. It's incredible.
The whole thing is Monique did that for her first game, was like, oh, I'm going to make things tree shaped. So then obviously Musterman was playing her in game week 2 and thought, this looks like a tree, and it was identical to what she did, and she'd never used it before. And I was just like, how has this happened? She was absolutely flabbergasted going into the game, as you would expect. But no, like, again, as you're saying, coming up with these different pairings, obviously it'll be nice for people who are trying to aspire to get into that YouTube area, having these interactions with people like Tom, like Luke. If you're looking at getting into streaming, obviously people like Matt, Second Yellow Card, as you mentioned, Zims, Robbo, like all of these people who are like Twitch partners, that sort of level, you can have these interactions with them, and it is super helpful. Like I probably message Luke on a fortnightly basis about content stuff. So like once you kind of have that avenue opened, you can kind of use that if you want to. And I've never been turned away from anybody when I've asked them a question about anything. So everyone that's involved in the competition's lovely. So yeah, I can't speak highly enough about it, to be honest.
Absolutely. So it seems like a genuinely good bunch. It seems like a genuinely good bunch. Did you feel like there was any sense of, not pressure? I don't think pressure is necessarily the right word, but from that initial SI announcement to kicking ideas around with people, to suddenly realizing that actually this could become a thing. And then there suddenly being 20 creators like, yeah, we'll absolutely commit to doing this. We'll absolutely take the time. This sounds like it's going to be loads and loads of fun. And then you've got people on the commentary team that are committing their time to it. When did it seem to you like, when did you get that, oh, this is actually suddenly quite real feeling? Or is that still not quite kicked in yet?
Not really, because the first couple of weeks have been quite intense in terms of getting them out of the door, with obviously me going away. Content's not my full-time job. I still have a full-time job to balance around this kind of stuff as well. The first couple of instances of sending a couple of WhatsApp messages around, what can we do, and ideas and this, that, and the other. And then obviously the name gets suggested, and then it's like, okay, well, send Flute a DM, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of having this idea, having a little bit of a play of using the new Football Manager football in a way, and Match of the Delay, and this, that, and the other. And then it comes back, and I'm like, oh, that's really good. I like that. And then I was like, okay, let's start messaging people. And then, the roster of people gets more full, and everyone's showing interest. And now here we are at the moment, at the time of recording, an intro episode and 4 game weeks in, and everyone's still buying in. It's been great. People have played games in advance. I think Sai Maggio's almost finished. Obviously there's like, I don't know how much of I'm potentially going to spoil here, but for next week's episode, as you guys probably know, Monique's gone on holiday. She's in Japan right now. She unfortunately couldn't get one of her games done before she went away. She's now talking about doing that in Japan. She's taken a microphone and a camera with her to Japan. So you may have to stay tuned to see if that appears in a video, but I think that'd be really fun. But you can see people's commitment to it in terms of what they're trying to bring to it, in terms of a overall viewing experience for people. And yeah, as I said, I'm massively overwhelmed with everyone's buy-in and the support from everybody who's watched a video, commented on it, or anything like that. It's been honestly awesome.
I mean, Robbo's done well because his house was on fire during the game week that I recorded. It's gone out now, so I can't figure out what that light was supposed to be doing, but there we are. There's just a big fire behind him while he's.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Some people change their tactics each week. Some people set fire to their house. You know, some people go and get massive cardboard boxes. It's great.
You just want it to be the "this is fine" meme, just literally just maybe it was that.
Yeah.
It works. I mean, personally, I would like to see some of the elements of that, applied to real life football. I think that, we should see Pep Guardiola facing a press conference sat in the cardboard box of shame. I think that's very, very important.
After this weekend, he might as well have done one, right?
This is it. This is exactly it. I think we should see, just backroom staff, just chucking it's that classic, just light a cigarette, take one drag of it, throw it into a waste paper basket as that goes up in the background, just before the second half kicks off. So, oh no, we've got a band. There's a fire how's that happened? Nobody knows. Like that. These are the kind of things we need to see in real life. I'm going to ask a bit of a not a difficult question, I suppose, but we've talked about the roster and it's a wonderful roster of 20 people. Is there anybody that you approached, Steve, that you would have loved to have been able to commit to it that you couldn't quite get over the line?
The biggest person that would jump out to me was Stinger. I would have loved Stinger to have been part of this competition, especially with the stuff he's doing on YouTube right now of just trying to have fun with the game and tactically and push it to its limits. Again, personal circumstances, committing time is just not. It just wasn't possible, and he kind of said that right from the off, But that's the kind of thing where he'll be on a panel in a couple of weeks' time, so like we can still use him and have him as part of the content, despite not having the time to commit 38 game weeks. It was always going to be a difficult one, especially with some of the guys who are full-time. That's why, as I said, I was so grateful for the guys who are full-time for being part of it, because, is it worth them spending 30 minutes recording a game week for something that they're not going to see any direct benefit from? Or is it better for them to spend that time working on a video of their own? So that's why I've been super grateful with everyone who's been part of it. But it would have been nice to have Stinger. I think he would have been a good addition to the selection of creators as well.
And who's going to release a Musterman's Chelsea rebuild video? Are you or Luke?
I think it could be a fun one. From this potential position of 4 games, 4 losses. It's not looking great for him, but
let's look at the tactics.
This one looks like a C for Chelsea. Okay, but no, it's all part of the fun, and it's all part of the enjoyment factor. And look, anything can happen in football, right? So he could go on a run. Just because he's lost his first 4, he could win the next 34 and win the league probably. I'll be shocked. Can't
believe you're putting spoilers like this in here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. What we've actually done, guys, is we filmed the whole thing. It's all done, and I know who wins. No, that's not true. Other than as I said, I think I know Si Maggio's point total because he's been conscious of going away himself in December, so has played quite far ahead.
Yeah, bless him. He's good like that. Si Maggio. This is the thing. I think that pool of people that you've put together, you could, and I don't mean this in a detrimental way to any of the 20 people involved. For the 20 people that are part of it, there are 20 other phenomenal content creators from, as you say, from YouTube, from Twitch, from who do bits and pieces behind the scenes, blogging, who, if you'd announced a different 20 names, everybody still would have had that same level of excitement. And like I say, it's that buy-in, isn't it? We've said quite a lot, and I talk about it regularly. I've talked about it on the pod. I talk about it when I stream. For me, the most enjoyable experiences I've had with Football Manager, especially over the last couple of years, have been either our FMT network save, hanging out with Jeb and with Steak and with D, and previously with Kev and with Alice as well. And we, at the time of recording last night, we did D-Boy's birthday draft, and just getting to spend time with people again. And that's the beauty of it. Regardless of the pool of people, having fun playing the game, and it very much comes across like that. And like I say, it's not to the detriment of the 20 people involved. It could have been a different 20 creators, and I think you still would see that same level of enjoyment for everybody. It doesn't look like there's a single person who's involved who's just going through the motions, who's just like, oh, I'm here to play another game. Everyone's bought in, from the creator point of view, from the contestant point of view, and from the audience. So from your perspective, you must be delighted with that, and also knowing that, hey, if FM25 26 gets delayed, we can just do it all again next time and have a great time.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's different avenues that you can go down with this, right? Like, we joked about, doing an FA Cup and stuff like that. You could do that, right? In terms of that being a possibility, or you could do a Champions League, or you could do a different league. There's different elements that you can kind of do to make that work as a competition. But again, it'll be a testament to see how it looks towards the end of what the process looks like, rather than how things are now. I would always rather judge it by the interest in the last game week than the first game week. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see. But yeah, why wouldn't we do a Champions League? That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't you do a Champions League? That massive, confusing Champions League group table with loads and loads of different people involved. I'm all in.
That's all right. We've been playing Football Manager for long enough. It's been in FM the last 2 years. We all know about it now, right?
Yeah, exactly. All these people that don't play the game. Oh, what is this? It's like, this is easy. This is easy. You just play some games.
You play some games. You finish top 8. You're through. Yeah. Also, I think the one worry about SI. I'm panicking now because they've never seen versus mode used so much.
Yeah, versus mode. Same as like when there was a boom in drafts. I imagine their numbers for people doing draft mode took a massive spike at that point. But yeah, versus mode, very interesting mode to get working. A little bit of background knowledge on setting this up. When you go into a versus mode, so for instance, let's say you two are playing each other, the game, regardless of host, would just decide one of you to be at home. And that would happen every time. So regardless of if Jeb was host, Rich would be the home team every time. And it would be played at your home stadium, and you would always have the advantage. And there was no way that we could have conceivably figured out how to sort this problem. In steps the amazing Nerdphonic, who did some research on this because he's obviously doesn't like sleep either, and figured out a solution. So what we did initially was we opened up an updated database, exported all the teams for all the competitors, said, here's your team, go play your games. That then had to be changed so that we had 2 versions of each team, home and away, and we had to go into a database and change the locations of the stadiums geographically to force the game to play it at a neutral venue. So each competitor's home team, we've moved all the stadiums to Russia. And the away teams, we've moved them all to Belarus, because that allows the game to force a neutral venue so that everything is now played in a neutral venue. So
you discovered the only benefit of war, essentially.
It's worked for this. I don't endorse it, unfortunately. That's probably not the way to go. But yeah, that was the way of figuring that out, was putting it in nations that can't face each other to force the neutral venue. But again, if anyone's going to know how this works within Football Manager, it would be Nerdphonic. So he found that solution, and now no one can feel hard done by that they're always the away team against a certain person or anything, because now it's neutral. But yeah.
So essentially, you're saying all you need to be able to, run a competition like this yourself and do all of the behind the scenes logistics is, you need an encyclopedic knowledge of the inner workings of Football Manager. And you also need very, very up-to-date knowledge of the world's geopolitical landscape. And if you know both of those things, then Match of the Delay 2 is going to be very, very easy to organize. That's what I'm hearing.
100%. Other than when SI take versus mode out, but all the best.
Apart from that, yeah. Which sounds like a more difficult fix, if I'm honest with you. The way it's just been sold to me, if you get Nerdphonic involved, you can fix all problems. So right then, lads, I'm going to solve a couple of global conflicts just so we can play games in different countries next year. It makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. On the subject of locations, here's a question for you, Steve. Have we figured out the approximate location of the void that Limo seems to be playing all of his games from at the moment? Because it looks terrifying. He's happy because it's Limo, of course he is. But do we know where he is?
No, but he's doing well, so I don't think he's going to want to come back. I can only assume it's just because of his green screen and the way it's been recorded. But yeah, I love Limo's 442 from the void. That's what I might call him now, Limo from the void. But
he's fallen into it's the Springfield mystery spot. That's what it is. He's just gone in there and he's just plummeting, tumbling.
That's the thing. He's doing fantastically well with that
Really
team. Believe it or not, he's playing a 442. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, with all the instructions turned on.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah,
what do you want me to do, boss? Yes, just all of it. Just give it a go.
That's how Limo does it.
And it's
I mean, there's a Limo from the void, and we mentioned it for Owen's head this week. I knew he had a large head, but my word, like.
I mean, yes. I just think Flips and I are just sat a little bit further back, is all I'll say. You know, if I was sat back here, my head looks tiny. Whereas if I'm here, oh wow, that forehead's big. And for audio listeners, I'm talking about myself, not one of these two gentlemen.
Sure, and our massive foreheads, apparently. Well, I've got a big forehead, in fairness. That's fair. There we go. So this is now, it's less a podcast. It's more just Jeb taking pot shots at members of the community on a weekly basis now. So tune in next week to find out who he goes for then. He can't be stopped, and he won't be stopped. Look, I think for my money, I think of all the negatives and all the the negative press that the delay for FM25 has gotten, I think for me, Match of the Delay is one of the best things to come from that announcement, because it's, again, we talked about it a lot last week. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast previously. Anyway, it's that sense of community, isn't it? It's bringing people together. It's getting people together, working on something. It's that collaborative nature, which is what makes the FM scene great. It's what makes people want to hang out with each other. And my consensus has always been, people that stream or people that create content around Football Manager want other people that do the same to do well. Yeah, and I think that's what this is encouraging. So for me, this has been, I think it's been brilliant, and I'm very, very happy that it exists. And I'm, happy that I get to commentate on games and pretend I'm a real pundit. It's been brilliant fun. Can't speak highly enough of it.
As I said, like anyone who has been involved, everyone's been sensational. Even from the initial design and talking about the name of the project, all the design work, all the editing. Anyone who's been on or off camera that's been part of the production, it's honestly been so good to see everybody who has been a part of it. From my experience, playing Football Manager can be quite an isolating game to play and stream. So yeah, as you alluded to earlier, the different interactions and the different combinations of people talking about different ways that they're doing the commentary, or different people on panels, or that's exactly what I was trying to do with this, with the competition being a secondary element, to be perfectly honest.
I think that comes across quite nicely. Comes across quite nicely. More power to it, and I hope the buy-in and I hope the success continues. I suppose that if anything, kind of takes us, I suppose, a little bit away from Match of the Delay and a little bit more towards just Stevehood. There's no such thing as just Stevehood, because you've mentioned, that it could be a bit of an isolating game. Taking a step away from Match of the Delay and kind of just focusing on you more as a content creator in your own right, because I think that's an important thing to bring up here, is that if there are people that are watching or listening to this podcast that don't necessarily know who Steve Hood is, which, let's be honest, if you're listening to a Football Manager podcast, chances are you're going to have a rough idea. In terms of the content that you create kind of on your own, we were talking about this, I suppose, before we went live. You're a day walker, because you kind of cross the boundaries, don't you? You live stream, but you've also got a very significant presence on a platform like YouTube, which is never a particularly straightforward thing to do. It's hard to kind of commit, or it's hard to build a reputation on multiple platforms simultaneously. Do you have a preference, I suppose, is the best way to ask that? Do you prefer the YouTube content, or do you prefer that audience interaction and that live streaming environment?
YouTube will forever be my baby in that regard. It was the thing that I started doing first. It's the thing that I felt the most comfortable with. And that's probably because of having that safety blanket of the fact that it can be edited. Whereas now I'm a little bit more established. I'm a little bit more comfortable being in front of a camera with lights on and talking and doing all that stuff. I think my preference now would lead more towards a streaming nature if it was just up to me and what I wanted to do. But as I said, I think it would get to a point for me where the number of hours put into YouTube, I'd find it very difficult to just leave that for a period of time and just stream and have that enjoyment factor. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love putting YouTube videos out there. But obviously there was that element when the delay came in of taking that step back and being like, okay, well, what do I want to do in that time period? And obviously we've come back with the thing that we've just spent, the last 40 minutes discussing. But like, yeah, I think YouTube will always be first for me. But I think now, what's this now, 4 years into doing this kind of thing, if you said gun to your head, what do you prefer doing, it probably would be streaming now, I think.
I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. To be honest with you, it doesn't come as a massive shock to me. I think a lot of people, again, people that do both, I think there's different, you can understand why both platforms appeal to different people. As you say, there's the YouTube, what goes out on YouTube is very, very carefully constructed, because you're going through that editing process. You're going, if you're doing, whether you're doing a tactics video or you're doing a rebuild, whatever you're doing, whatever content you're creating, you are completely in control of how that is presented to your audience, for example. Whereas live streaming, it's happening live. There's no barrier there. There's no buffer. When something bad happens, people are kind of gauging your reaction to that instantly. I had it happen to me today. I streamed this morning, and my Juventus rebuild got cut short by about 3.5 years because my director of football, on his way out the door, offered one of my players a new contract, which ate up the remaining £80,000 of my wage bill. So I went from very carefully planning. I was like, right, I've brought in all the free transfers. I've done the maths. When all my frees come in and all my loans leave, the books are just about balanced, because this Juve team had no money, completely bankrupt. And on his way out the door, he's like, oh, I've given a midfielder. He was on 60 grand a week. I've given him 135. Is that going to be a problem? And it killed it. It completely killed it. And that happened live. That happened in front of people. And I was like, I can't hide how disappointed I am by this. Whereas if that happened offline, you're doing that for YouTube, you are very much in control of how that is presented. And, I'm looking back at it, people might accuse me of maybe of having a slight tantrum about the situation, which I think I actually did. I was very, very upset, and I ended up quitting the Juve job out of spite. But for me, it was raw. It was my natural reaction to it, and I think that's how it needed to be presented. Whereas, because I've never done YouTube, I haven't got a YouTube brain. I can't structure things that well. It will come to know. Jeb is quite in his head going, yes, you can't structure a podcast, let alone a YouTube video. It's true. Organization isn't my bag. Shocking. After nearly 100 episodes, I still haven't quite got the hang of it. But that's why streaming works for me, because I couldn't have presented that moment properly in a YouTube video, for example. Whereas you know, there are people like yourself that are very, very good at creating that. You know, Omega Luke and his dad do it very, very well in their videos. People that make long form YouTube content based around Football Manager understand how to present that. So I think it takes a certain skill to be good at both. You know, I'm not good at one, let alone not good at two things. So I think more power to you that you can approach both and do both things very well.
And you say that, but the moment that you kind of alluded to on your save there, from my perspective, that's what people love on stream. They love when things go wrong. If you're winning every game, people find it less interesting, in my mind. A couple of years ago, I did a save with Red Star Belgrade, and the goal was to win them the Champions League like they did in 1991. The league gets very boring in year 10, believe it or not, when you're winning every game 6, 7, 8-0 because you've built a team that's assembled to try and win the Champions League. And these poor Serbians are just getting battered week in, week out, and you've won, 9 domestic doubles in a row. Whereas, when I had a stream save earlier in this game cycle with Western Supermare, and I thought, working your way up from the non-leagues in England, obviously you just release everybody in your squad once you've been promoted because you're trying to re-establish yourself at the next level. The problem that I then discovered was that no free agents wanted to join my team because my squad was so poor because there was no one in it. So that season that preceded that was very enjoyable to the people watching my stream. I didn't enjoy it very much because I hate losing. But from like a viewer perspective, I think that element of the raw reaction of the people struggling, and the one that I would always draw people's attention to is unfortunately Callum's time with Slough. Like, people really bought into him not getting promoted and that being funny for everyone but Callum. So I think, Rich, that's the perfect thing that could have happened to your Juve save. The only other thing would have then been bringing Ronaldo back. Just like, we'll go again with Ronaldo and just spend lots of money on him.
That could only end well. Surely it'll end well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was going to say 2024 has been quite an eventful year in gaming land. I mean, I guess you could rank these if you want.
Oh God!
Twitch partner. 10 million views on YouTube, like total. Match of delay. Getting married. I might leave that one out just in case. Just in case you get the really wrong
that
answer.
one's number one. Please, don't kill me.
Smart.
Yes.
There's been a lot this year, to be honest. I mean, and to be honest, looking at when you read stuff out like that, Jeb, it does make me kind of take a step back and go, yeah, this has been a pretty good year, because away from content and the marriage, things in 2024 haven't necessarily been the best. From like a professional standpoint, away from content, up until recently, it hadn't been the best year for me. So seeing these things happen, like I said to you guys before, the Twitch partnership came around because of my necessity to do it out of more of a mental health perspective than being like, I'm gunning to get Twitch partner. It was because I'd left a job that I was unhappy in, and my partner, or my now wife, was still working full time. So, me just sitting around her office all day, just being like, "You all right? Do you want a coffee? Do you want to go and walk the dogs together? Do you want to do this?" And it's just like, could you just go away and like do something? So I was like, oh, maybe I'll stream in the afternoon. And I had so much fun doing that. And that obviously turned into the Twitch partnership. So like, whilst, there are elements of things that have been less than ideal with 2024. Yeah. When you read stuff out like that, Jeb, it really does remind you of some of the positives that have come this year, to be honest.
Absolutely. I have always said, and I will maintain, that I think using something like streaming as not a distraction, because I don't think distraction is the right word, but I think I've streamed through some difficult times over the last few years, and it's been there it's almost like a support mechanism in a lot of ways, because it's forcing routine. It's interacting with people, it's which can only be to, and it's forcing you to talk. Sometimes it forces you to open up about things. I've always been, or tried to be, as open as I can in terms of things like my mental health and when I've been struggling with things, and I've streamed through those because it's given me something to do. Also very much like yourself, when I know when I'm at home with my wife, when she's working from home, she's like, can you just go and sit in your office and do something? Can you just be away from me, please? It's 10 o'clock. You've offered me 17 cups of tea. I've drank 15. Can we just, that's too many cups, It is a really, really important thing. It's a really, really helpful thing. We talked before we were going live actually about, the daytime streams. Daytime streams are lovely. It almost it's a different universe. Almost, it's very different to your evenings, which it feels less crowded. It's almost feels like a different audience, but it's a lovely thing to be able to do. And it's, like I say, it gives you. We go back to our good friend Kev. It gives you project and purpose. It gives you something to do, something to set your mind to, and then in your case, it's something that's gone incredibly well for you. But it's really nice to hear that it's happened organically as well.
Yeah, like it wasn't like it wasn't a goal of mine to be, I'm going to use this to get Twitch partnered. Obviously, towards the end, there was an element of, well, I'm pretty close to this now. This is quite good, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm having that good feeling of, obviously, when Twitch sets out the thresholds to get to that sort of level, and you're seeing your concurrent view numbers, jump up week on week, and that kind of stuff. It really does give you that positive that I really needed at that time. And as you said, Rich, just being able to interact with different people and not talking about the situation that was a negative in my life. Like my wife's super supportive, right? There's only so many times you can talk about the same thing. So like that was my escape of, I'm doing a save with Western Supermare. I did a save with Liverpool and Chelsea, and did some of the bigger teams, just because doing loads of these rebuilds, it's very rare you manage someone at that level, to be honest. You're taking your teams that have been relegated to the third tier of Norwegian football and stuff like that to try and fix them, because they won titles in the 70s and the 80s. So I cannot stress how useful streaming was for me at that time, to just help me just get through each day. Just from a general purpose perspective, as you said, that's the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, he's good like that, is our Kev. Ever so eloquent when it comes to that kind of thing. I know, I'm really glad to hear that it was a positive for you, because I think that's what it's there for. At its essence, creating content, especially live, doing it on stream, is you're putting yourself out there. You're putting a bit of yourself out there every time you do it, and if it has a positive effect on other people, that's wonderful. But if it has a positive effect on you, the person, in front of the camera, then that's even better. And I love that for you. I'm really, really glad that it's been able to provide that for you. That's a really, really nice thing to hear, Steve.
Yeah, like I'd finish a stream, and at the same time as my wife would be finishing work, and I'd actually come out with a smile on my face because things were good and I had a fun time doing it. And that is just so much of a value added to our relationship whilst that difficult period was going on, that my mood was just better, just in general, rather than, you're focusing on the positives of what you've done in the save, or an interaction that you've had with someone in chat, or whatever, rather than the negative that's going on at the same time. So yeah, it was super, super helpful for me. And yeah, there was something great that came out of it in terms of that Twitch partnership, but the mental health side of stuff was the biggest thing that I can point to.
Beautiful. Oh, that's ever so nice. That's pleasant, that is. We don't normally get wholesome on this podcast. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Makes me very, very happy. We've been chatting for a good old while now, Steve, and as is tradition on FMT, when we have a guest on, we've just sat here, we've asked you a lot of questions about you, Match of the Day, streaming, YouTube, just Steve Hood's life in general. As is tradition at this point in the podcast, Steve, is there anything that you would like to ask us?
Yes, there is. And I have a prop that will help me actually with this. So
God.
I'm invested already.
Earlier this week, I installed this on my computer,
Ooh, okay.
which for the audio listeners,
CD-ROM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I've got a. Hold on. Not on my computer. I don't. I had to buy.
Nice.
For the audio listeners, I've just shown a copy of Football Manager 2005, the original one that Sports Interactive brought out in the Football Manager franchise. I wanted to ask you guys, what was your first management game that you played on? Because having been burnt out on FM24, I am loving the save that I'm doing on here because it's just so different. Yeah. So, what was your guys' first?
Bear with me.
Dabble. Oh, this is Rich going and getting props as well now. Excellent.
Because I was quite late to the to owning a PC party. I played console, but I played on friends' PCs when I was younger, bits and pieces. But when I got my first ever laptop, the one that I think I sunk the most hours into in a big way, was Football Manager 2009. That was a big.
The Pizzini years.
Yeah, that was this. Includes a new 3D match engine. That's only going to take off. I think people are going to really like that forever and have no issues with it or ever call for it to get upgraded. So yeah, 2009. I say I played 2005. I had 2006 and 2007 at some point on the Xbox 360.
Love it.
It didn't work. It was clunky. It was horrible. But again, I've talked about my brother and I had a Worcester City save on it. When they were in the Vanarama South at one point, and we just used to play that. That's how my brother and I bonded, just playing that. But first proper PC version, the one that hours and hours and hours and hours and hours sat on the sofa with your laptop on your legs, getting sweaty legs because the fan's kicking out all kinds of heat. For me, I think it was 2009. That was my first big love.
Yeah, go on, Jeb.
Well, I got this prop while I was away in Dundee a couple of weeks ago because one of my friends is obsessed with retro consoles and just goes to CEX and buys whatever they had. But I've got something for you. This was mine.
Oh wow!
On the Mega Drive, Premier Manager.
Wow.
Came out in 1995.
There we go.
And you make the decisions based on the most popular management sim of all time.
What's that say down the side? The first ever football management something?
For the Mega Drive. Yeah, for the Mega Drive.
For the Mega Drive, yeah.
Yeah, and then there you go. There's the back of the case for people who want to see it as well.
Look at the stadiums and everything. Don't tell me you can edit a stadium. That's crazy.
You could do the advertising boards.
You could do the advertising. You could do the advertising boards. I played that game when I was a child, and I could never budget properly to get advertising boards all the way around the pitch, and I never understood it.
Rich, can you? I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Can you see what team the focusing on?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Sheffield Wednesday.
Bloody Wednesday.
And they were in the Premier League and everything.
They were in the Premier League.
It was between that and Champman 2 on the PC when they used to have the EDOS Classics or whatever it was. You used to be able to buy them for like 10 quid. It's between that and that. But yeah, Premier Manager was great. Like, I loved it. Like, it was definitely up there with like just fun to do. And then you had Championship Manager, you had Ultimate Soccer Manager where you could bribe people.
Bring that
so you could build your stadium. Yeah, you could build your stadium up, and then you could go see the chairman, and it'd just be an old person. He looked a little bit like Bobby Charlton if he'd got rid of the comb over. And you go, "Hello, how are you?" And then you're like, "Oh, this is good." And then you can chat about what you want if you wanted more money, and you get angry if you were doing rubbish. But then you could go to like various people. I think basically it was like round the back of a shop. You could go and speak to someone, and you could put like bribes on, or you could get bribed to put like bets on and stuff like that. It was like little things you can add in.
Yeah,
just little things.
I mean, just little things.
It is
match fixing. It was a treat.
See, I'm in. People say they want to spend their wages in Football Manager. That's what I want to spend it on. I want to be bribing people.
Yeah,
I don't want to be buying cars or houses or anything like that.
Yeah, we discussed it like before. It's like, why can't you go and spend that wage that you earn in Football Manager?
Yeah,
you do that crossover. Like,
it's just the funny things that happen in that game. So obviously, I'm a Bristol City fan. Went on really quickly, looked at the Bristol City team, and that was like prime when I was like going season ticket holder, going to games left, right, and centre. That was like my prime era. but it's just really funny stuff that happens as you're playing through. Like, I'm doing a save with Southampton, who have James Beatie, who is the best footballer in the world, I think, at this point. He's very good. And at the end of my first season, Sam Allardyce got appointed as England manager. And I was like, brilliant, we're here. We've arrived. We've arrived like
Football
15,
heritage.
20 years too early. I'm in for it. Let's go. And now we can get to see Big Sam win a World Cup with England. I can't wait. But yeah, this is the thing now. As I said, burnt out on FM24, so I've gone back 20 years to see what the old games were like, and this is such good fun.
Yeah, just looking at the back here, Sheffield Wednesday have minus 2.2 million, so it's quite realistic. It's still up to date, yeah.
That's very realistic. And hearing hearing that has made me sad. So yeah, very realistic. Yeah, that's how it works. That is exactly how it works. Look, Mad Scientist New Databases at the time of recording is dropping for non-Patreons in a couple of weeks' time. It's 94.95 Sheffield Wednesday. I am in, and I cannot wait for it to all go terribly and just to make me sad all over again. Cannot wait. I'm definitely due some Sheffield Wednesday based misery.
Yeah, I love his databases. I really do. But I must admit, there's nothing like infuriation at a match engine that's 20 years old. I can get frustrated with a match engine that's relatively fresh this year, right? But loading into a game and going, well, first of all, when I opened the game and it being in a 4:3 square aspect ratio was great. It looks great on a 4K monitor. That it's just black bars down either side. It's like, okay, let's figure out a way to fix this then. But yeah, is great. I would highly recommend, if you've been playing Football Manager for a long time and going back on your Steam account and playing the oldest one that you've got in this time and just enjoying a different world, because there's a guy at Barcelona, I don't know if you've heard of him, it's called Lionel Messi. He's not very good, and I really want to sign him at Southampton just to say that I've got him. Whereas someone in my team who is good, who didn't turn out to be very good in real life, is Freddie Adu. So there you go. And that's what it's all
Balance
about.
is key. Balance is key. See, my favorite thing about those that kind of the 2005 to 2007 era, especially the console ports. I don't know if it was the same on PC, but I found it quite a lot on the console versions. In the match end, the dots, the 2D dots, if you got a set piece and the set piece taker didn't corner, free kick, whatever it was, if they didn't take it for about 20 to 30 in-game seconds, it's because at some point you see all the little dots swirling around in the box. It's because one of the opposition defenders was always going to throw an elbow, and then you would get a penalty. And it happened. So you're like, right, I've got a corner. Right. Why isn't he taking the corner? Why isn't he taking the corner? Is this like FM24 when you try and take a quick short corner and it won't take it until the opposition have had the chance to send a man? No, still hasn't taken the corner. So somebody's throwing an elbow. I've got a penalty. And it happens about 10 times a season. And sometimes it was you, but a lot of the time it was the AI, and it was beautiful. You'd panic your game was broken. You'd panic your PC had crashed. You'd panic your console was about to turn off. No, it's because somebody was, it always happened all the time. I'd really like to know if that happens on the PC version or if it was just a weird console glitch, but it was loads and loads of fun. That's what makes those old games good.
I intend on playing my way through the series and doing like a video on each as we go, but I'll keep my eyes peeled, Rich, and I'll see if I see any rogue elbows or anything like that.
This is it. That's what we want. That's what we want to hear. Because again, retro content is great. I know Clates not long ago did his Wonder Kid from every FM game, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. Just the nostalgia involved in those kind of things, and actually going back and physically doing it as well. Wholehearted, like you say, get on your Steam account, buy a portable disc player, stick it in your PC, download a very, very old version of FM, because it's the future. It's like the almanac in Back to the Future. You've got all the knowledge, you know who all the good players are. You just have to look, go back in time and figure it all out.
Well, that copy of FM 2005 I found in a charity shop, because the one that I had has disappeared from my mum's house apparently. So I bought that one for 50p. So
nice.
Worth.
Solid investment. That is a solid investment. You've done well there.
And I'm pretty sure, isn't that the one where if you bid over £13 million initially and then you go back and change your bid to 0, you get the player for free? Just a little hint there.
No. What do you mean? No, I don't know. I don't know, but I will find out. So if you see Cristiano Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney knocking up in my Southampton save, it's Jeb's fault and he's ruined it. But instead, I'm trying to wheel and deal and sign Freddie Guarin from Colombia and stuff like that. You know,
Yes.
that's where I'm at.
Perfect. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with a bit of Freddie Guarin, especially on those old FMs. Perfect. Arguably,
long shots, yes, just every time.
Just yes, just shoot.
He's got 20 long shots. It should go in every time, right?
It should. It absolutely should.
It was like there was a Colombian on Champman 2, Eva Moas. He had 20 stroke, 20 stamina, and 20 tackling as a centre back. It was just nobody's ever getting past him, and if they are, they're just getting bullied to the floor like every single time.
It's like I said about James Beatie. Who knew the combination of finishing and the physicals that he's got would be really good in the Football Manager match engine? It's almost like it's not changed too much over the last 20 years.
Absolutely, and that's why I love going back to play the old Mad Scientist databases, because you just back then they're like, right, is this lad good at shooting? Yeah, he's quite good at shooting. Oh, he can have 20. Is he good at tackling? No, he's not very good at tackling. He can have 2. Middle ground? No, absolutely none whatsoever. Should we give somebody a 12? How dare 12? No.
No one's average.
Averages. Yeah. Nobody's average here. Nobody. Like Gareth Southgate.
You can look at Mad's databases and you think the exact same if you've not played the game for a long period of time, and it's like, well, there's a lot of 20s in here. And no, that's pretty much how they looked in the old games. Yeah. That's it. Yeah,
that's what they were. You know, Sheffield Wednesday icon David Hirst on paper in Mad's 92-93 database would get into any team in world football in the modern day match engine, because he was either it was literally 3s and 20s. Those were David Hirst attributes across the board. It was like, you know, 20 agility, 20 pace, 20 finishing, 19 composure, but, you know, like 4s in every other non-important attribute. It was like, that's just how they were rated back then. That's how it worked. So yes, more of that kind of thing, please and thank you. I don't know about the two of you, but that feels very much to me like a podcast.
I think that could be a podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
It feels like one. I mean, I'm going to edit it and put it on the internet and under the guise of one. So
magic.
Whatever happens, happens, I suppose. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. I can only apologise for it taking this long, but I'm glad it did because of Match of the Delay. Before we go, normally we just plug ourselves, but everyone's bored of us plugging ourselves. The floor is yours, my friend. Talk to us about all things Steve Hood.
Well, it's just Hood Gaming UK on all platforms, and make sure you go and check out the Match of the Delay series, which these two lovely gentlemen have been a part of so far, and I hopefully will be a part of moving forward. And thank you both for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been lovely to sit and chat to you. And thank you, audience, for listening, for watching. However you've engaged with this. Jeb, it's been lovely to have you back.
Thank you.
It's been ever so nice.
Bye.
Ever so nice. I was going to get to not in front of the.
You were going to end the episode.
No, not in front.
You were just
not in front of the guest.
Take care. Love you lot. See you later. All that thing that you do every week.
In 10 minutes, but we know what we do. Not now. We've done so well. God. I mean, that stays in. It all does. It all does. Thanks, Jeb. Thanks for being here, mate. It's been really nice. It's been nice spending time with you as well.
Sure.
Got anything you want to talk about, or no?
No, we're not plugging. Just Hood Gaming UK on all platforms.
Hood Gaming UK on all platforms is really, really good. Yeah, what Steve Hood. Can I sign off now?
Yeah, go for it.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, the audience, for putting up with that. I'm really sorry you had to see this. Mummy and Daddy are fighting again. You can sit on the stairs and decide who you want to live with. Appreciate you enormously. Thank you for joining us for what appears to have turned into a domestic dispute, but I'm pretty sure it was a Football Manager podcast. Football Manager Therapy, thank you very much. We appreciate you enormously. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Love you lots.
Sorry for interrupting you earlier.
It's okay. I forgive you. Bye.
Bye.